What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It is time for a review of the third studio album by the Welsh pop punkers Neck Deep. It's called The Peace and The Panic. It is the follow-up to 2015's excellent record Life's Not Out to Get You that just totally caught me by surprise. Considering I don't love a ton of modern pop punk whatsoever, this is one of those bands that, yes, built their brand off of generic pop punk, but also accelerated past that in a way, and they stood out in their own lane. And for that reason, I loved that record, but I was a little bit disappointed whenever I recently saw them live at Vans Warped Tour. It just didn't seem like a lot of the energy was necessarily there. So with this new record, I was remotely excited, but I didn't have super high hopes, and honestly, those hopes were surpassed. I have to say, this is a pretty solid record that does grow on you the more you listen to it, and I think that the biggest thing that you have to get over is the fact that this isn't the Neck Deep that you saw on Life's Not Out to Get You. They were at a different stage in their life. They were going through a period of uninterrupted happiness, as they said in the interviews like leading up to this release, and I can see that. I can understand why now they're maybe reflecting a bit more. They lost their guitarist Lloyd Roberts after all of those accusations, and even though he was cleared after they found no case against him, he's still not a member of the band. And Ben Barlow, the lead singer of this band, lost his father. His father passed away, and you see a track 1970 something dedicated to him. And while that is one of the more unique moments in terms of its instrumentals, I would say that some of the songs that go out on a limb like that, it's 50-50. They can fall either way. Some of them do it great, like In Bloom, a mesmerizing, emo-tinged moment that I adore. That is one of the best Neck Deep songs to date. And for everyone saying, oh, they're not pop punk anymore, they sold out. Really? I mean, come on. It's one of those things where they're taking their influences and honing them in a different way, I think. You don't just grow up listening to one thing, and you don't continue to just listen to one thing as you mature as a band, and I totally get that. Overall, I would describe this record, The Peace and the Panic, as just a rock album, or else alternative. It's not necessarily pop punk, although you definitely get that, like the opening track, Motion Sickness, which I think definitely has a nice rollicking vibe to it. Love the guitar here, and it kind of bridges the gap between that last album and the new one. And after that, you kind of get transitioned into a little bit more of what they're going for with Happy Judgment Day. That was one of the pre-release singles. We got two right off the bat. That paired off with Where Do We Go When We Go. And I think that those are both solid songs. The latter of those especially has definitely grown on me even more. They both have a striking guitar presence, and even the opening little children choir vocals, Rain, Rain, Go Away on Where Do We Go, has kind of grown on me a bit, and I'm finding myself drawn to those two moments more than even some of these other deep cuts. But In Bloom, like I said, a fantastic moment, one of the other big standouts. But right before that, we get another excellent track in the form of Parachute. It's something that definitely takes them in more of like an alternative rock vein, and I like that. They take that idea and run with it. The instrumental is a bit softer, but I love the memorable and striking guitar on this one, and then the chorus. It's something that's easy to remember and sing along with, but it doesn't feel dumbed down, and that is the most important thing about, I think, The Peace and the Panic in general. Even though that they've definitely changed up their style some, they didn't sell out or else pander, I don't feel like, at all. They're just diversifying. I'm getting an early 2000s vibe from moments like Parachutes and, of course, In Bloom, which calls to mind some of those early emo pioneers of the late 1990s and, of course, the early 2000s as well. But I also get that kind of on moments like Critical Mistake. It reminds you of that kind of almost carefree, blissful feel that you get in terms of the music, but they're also venting their feelings. And on Critical Mistake, I'm seeing that just bleeding through big time. I see that as being one of the catchiest moments here. I love the acoustic guitar strums on that one, a little bit of the keys in the background as well, and Barlow's voice on this one really just navigates it to a great place. I'm also really liking Heavy Lies, that has a big chorus and a little bit of a build up there, and I see him once again kind of getting out some relationship frustrations, it seems like. And even though some of these tracks can seem like they're just about maybe a relationship with a girl or something like that, a lot of that transcends that, because you think Wish You Were Here maybe is like, oh, I'm missing this person. It's actually for a friend of theirs that passed away, a childhood friend, and it sees them in mourning. And moments like that, and 1970 something for his father, even though they might not be my favorites in terms of the music, and I don't think I'm necessarily going to keep coming back to them, I definitely respect why they did the songs. If you get the Target or HMV edition of this record, you'll get 2 bonus tracks, Beautiful Madness and Worth It. The latter of those, Worth It, especially being a top favorite of mine. Beautiful Madness really just fitting in as well to that pop punk vibe that was definitely missing. I mean, the band has plenty of chemistry on this album. It just feels a bit disjointed, even though the production is mostly, for the most part, on top of its game thanks to Mike Green, and I do like the mixing as well, although there's a few moments that maybe could have used a bit more of a punch, but maybe that's just due to the instrumentals just not having it in the first place. I think that Neil Avron did a fine job in that regard though, but I just feel like some of these moments are lacking a punch, like the Grand Delusion, for example. That's one that on paper I should probably like, but just the more I listen to it, I find myself drifting off into my own thoughts, losing interest, and that's something that I have to say for this record overall. I mean, while a lot of these songs are fine and fun, or else emotional, it's just, they're not heavyweights in the sense that they hold you the entire time. And I think that that's this album's biggest problem overall, and why I don't find it quite as memorable as their last record, Life's Not Out to Get You. But once you get to those bonus tracks, I think it all kicks back in, and it's a much needed breath of fresh air, and a steering back towards, I guess, more of their traditional stuff. And I know I praise them for branching out and experimenting, it's just that the end of the record does feel a bit inconclusive, especially with Where Do We Go When We Go. I see that as a reflective moment, but it doesn't feel like a proper ending. And while the bonus tracks maybe don't necessarily sum it up, they do a great job of transitioning you back into maybe a bit of a better mood instead of wondering about, well, what happens when I die? This is all just my opinion, guys. I don't think it's gonna have a super high replay factor for me, but In Bloom is definitely one of my favorite tracks of the year. Parachute really jumps off as well. Critical Mistake. You can see all of my favorites and least favorites in the description down below, along with my rating and more information about the record. Me personally today, for this new Neck Deep record, I'm going to give it a strong 3.5 out of 5. Now, if you're able to, please support me on Patreon or else on TAD. The second way is the absolute easiest for you probably. All you have to do is download the TAD app, watch a few ads, and once you get up to 500, transfer it over to ARTV, and every 500 TADs that you earn for ARTV is actually 50 cents in an actual real-life donation. So thank you to everybody who has been watching. Got a couple of shout-outs going on screen here to like RB Music, my boy Dan the Man over here, a couple of others that are floating up here that I just really wanted to give you guys some appreciation, and thank you for taking your time out to actually watch some ads. Other than that, let's cut to the outro card. My Patreon page is right there in that annotation in the corner. If you're able to support on a monthly basis, you can click right here for my Life's Not Out to Get You review, or another pop punk review right over here. Leave suggestions for other albums you'd like to see me cover in the comments, socials in the description, and I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.